We've graduated from two-dimensional shapes like rectangles and triangles to three-dimensional shapes, which we call prisms. So today we're going to be finding the volume of different types of prisms, both rectangular and triangular prisms. So get your notes set up, fill in your learning target. We've got a new standard that we're working on, 6G2, and then your I can statement. I can find the volume of rectangular and triangular prisms. A little review just before we get into it on our different units. So we have length, area, and volume. When we're dealing with just length, things like how many centimeters long is this? Well, maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters long. So we'd call it 5 centimeters. Not squared, not cubed, because we're just measuring in how many centimeters, we're just counting. For area, we're trying to figure out how many squares fit inside of my shape. I'm literally trying to fill the inside of that rectangle with as many of these squares as I can. So my units would be squared. For volume, our units are going to be cubed, or to the third power for an exponent, because we're trying to figure out how many cubes, how many blocks could fill this. Volume is figuring out how many blocks or how many little cubes could I fit inside of it. Think of it kind of like how many of them could you stack inside of a box. You're trying to fill the entire space with these little cubes. Our volume is how many of them fit in there. So our units here would be 12 centimeters squared because it's 12 squares that fit inside. Here I've got 4 by 3 by 2, so that would give me 24 centimeters cubed. It's how many cubes could fit inside of there. Another way to think about it is, here I'm just measuring in centimeters. Just one unit, just counting up how many. For area, it would be 4 centimeters times 3 centimeters. Centimeters times centimeters gives me centimeters squared, because I'm multiplying centimeters twice. For volume, as we'll learn, maybe this is 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters. I'm multiplying centimeters 3 times, so that's why my units are cubed. Just to kind of give you an idea of why the units are the way they are. So let's find volume. So as it talks about up top, and we just talked about, it's the number of cubes that you could fit inside of it. How many of these little cubic units could fit inside? So we have 2 different ways of finding our volume. And you probably have a pretty good background knowledge for volume. It's one of those easier ones to calculate. One way to do volume is simply to do your length times your width times your height. Your length is going across, your width is the distance going back, and then your height is that vertical distance going up and down. Another way to look at it, and sometimes you'll see on formula sheets or when we get to triangular prisms, is you're going to see a capital B times your height. The capital B means the area of the base. So whatever shape the base is, find its area, and then multiply that times your height. So no matter what shape that base is, if you find its area, multiply times your height, your other measurement, you'll be able to find the volume. It's basically a quick way of calculating how many of these little cubes would fit inside of my shape. So let's try a couple. Find the volume of each of these. So volume is simply equal to length times width times height. So we need to multiply together our measurements. So my length is 10, my width is 5, and my height is 2. Nice, quick, simple calculation. 10 times 5 is 50, times 2 is 100. Since I'm dealing in feet, it's feet cubed, because I multiply together 3 units, 3 measurements. So over here, volume is equal to length times width times height. So here's my length, 5. My width is the distance going back. That's going to be my 20 up here. Times my height, which is my other 5. 5 times 20 is 100, times 5 is 500 yards cubed. Remember to always include your units on there. Don't leave your answer naked. Okay, you should always have the units so we know what it is you're trying to talk about. So, finding volume, pretty easy. Length times width times height. Just plug them on in. But let's see if we can go backwards. We know the volume this time. We don't know our height. So we need to work backwards. Again, just like with our other shapes, start with your formula. Length times width times height equals volume. Plug in what we know. We know the volume is 84. We know our length is 6. We know our width is 4. We don't know our height, so we're just going to leave it there. Do the math that you can do. 6 times 4 is 24. Times h is equal to 84. Now we solve it. They multiply by 24, so I'm going to divide by 24. All we did was plug our numbers into our formula, work the problem backwards. Okay? Solve it for our missing piece. In this case, h is going to be equal to 2.5. 24 goes into it 2.5 times, 3.5 times, my bad. Okay, 24 goes in 3 times, that's 72, plus an extra half gives me 84. So 3.5, I'm dealing in meters, so it's going to be 3.5 meters. I'm just working the problem backwards. Start with your formula, plug in what you know, and then do the math to work backwards and figure out what's my missing piece. All right, triangular prisms. Only difference, you got a triangle for a face instead of your rectangular ones. So it's not as simple as just length times width times height. This is where we got to use that other formula. Volume is equal to the big capital B, that's for the area of the base, times the height. So think of it like this. Find the area of the triangle, multiply times your height. So the big B is the area of the triangle. Remember, base times height divided by 2 of just the triangle piece, then you multiply it times your other measurement. So let's try it on this one. Always focus on the triangle first. And remember, whenever you're looking at a triangle, always find your base and your height. That height is that vertical distance from your base. So my base down here is 4. So we're finding the area of our base. So we want to do 4 times my height. That's that measurement at a right angle. So times 5 divided by 2. 4 times 5 is 20. Divided by 2 gives me 10. That's B. Now I want to multiply it times the height of the whole prism. That's my other measurement. That's going to be my 8 inches going this way. So I found the area of my triangle. Then I multiply times the height of the prism, which is 8. 10 times 8 is 80. So my volume is 80. I'm dealing in inches, so inches cubed. Because I did 1, 2, 3 measurements that are in inches that are multiplied together. So let's try 2 more real quick. If you think you got the hang of it, give them a try on your own. Be careful on the second one. But let's try this one together. Start with your triangle. That's the big capital B, the area of that triangle. Well, it's got a base of 8. It's got a height of 7. Notice that right angle symbol there. Okay. I'll clean it up a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. But you'll see that right angle symbol there. That tells us that that's our height for our triangle, and then we're going to divide it by 2. 8 times 7 is 56. Divided by 2 is 28 feet squared. That's the area of the base, the area of my triangle. Last step, remember, volume is equal to the area of the base times the height. So 28 times my height, 6 feet. That's always what is my leftover measurement. 6 feet. So 28 times 6. Do a little math here off to the side. 28, 48. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 168. So my volume is equal to 168 feet cubed, because I'm finding volume. Last one. Again, focus on your triangle. Always look for that right angle, because that tells you where your base and your height meet. So in this case, this bottom edge down here doesn't help me. I need this short edge here and this long edge here, because they're the ones that meet at the right angle. So this edge here matches this one back here, so it must have a measurement of 6. This edge here matches this back edge here, which is 10. So to find the area of the triangular base, I'm going to do 6 times 10 divided by 2. Don't forget that divided by 2 is the biggest mistake we can make with triangular prisms, is just forgetting to divide by 2. 6 times 10 is 60, divided by 2 is 30. Remember, for volume, we want to do the area of the base times my other measurement, times the height of the whole prism. That's going to be my 12. So I want to do 30 times 12. 3 times 12 is 36. Add on my 0, so 360. I'm dealing in inches, so inches cubed. So that's how you find the volume of rectangular and triangular prisms. For rectangular prisms, it's just length times width times height. For triangular prisms, find the area of that triangle and then multiply times your height.